Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Low Lead. In this episode, we look back on the 2024 annual Fly-In, hosted by the Western Antique Aircraft and Automobile Museum in Hood River, Oregon. This year, the museum flew 3 of the rarest training aircraft of the 20th century. Come along with us while we take a look back on this momentous occasion.
Every year, in September, the Western Antique Aircraft and Automobile Museum in Hood River, Oregon, hosts a vintage aircraft fly-in. This is one of our big fundraisers for the year, but it's also an awesome opportunity to showcase some of the incredible aircraft in this collection. Now, in the weeks leading up to the fly-in, preparations have to get made. The lawn gets mowed, stripes get painted. Aircraft are pulled out of the museum and brought to the restoration and maintenance hangar so they can get their annual inspections and any repairs and maintenance can get done before they take to the sky once again. This is a big project and requires a lot of hands, but we have dedicated volunteers, including pilots and mechanics from all over the country, from as far away as Maine and California, who travel here just to help with this event. And it's a fantastic crew. We've got volunteers that are kids in their late teens, all the way to kids in their early 90s. Keeping these aircraft flying, keeping this museum operational, and sharing this history with as many people as we can. It's a really fantastic event, and a fun excuse to pull out some of these airplanes, get the community involved, and get more people exposed to what makes this museum so special. As one of the very fortunate volunteers of this museum who gets to fly some of these airplanes, this event is an absolute highlight for me and a big part of my year every year. Now, I said it's not just about me getting to fly airplanes. Another thing about this event that I think is really cool is the fact that we sell rides in this biplane. It was a 1930 new standard D-25. It was designed in the late 20s specifically to sell rides to the general public, back when aviation was still new and exciting. And to this day, getting to share what it's like to fly in a vintage open cockpit biplane with new generations is an absolute thrill and a privilege. I have an absolute blast taking up grandparents and grandkids and everyone in between for rides in this old airplane that's been doing this job for the last 95 years. And while I'm on the subject, I gotta give a shout out to Adventure 455 who recognized me this year at the fly-in. Just wanted to let you know I haven't forgotten about you. And so if you see me around the museum, feel free to say hi anytime you're by. While Scooter and I are out hauling rides in the biplane, we have a couple other volunteer pilots who are flying the Ford Trimotor, selling rides in this giant corrugated aluminum beast. And if you get a chance to experience one of these airplanes for yourself, jump on it. It is incredible to get to hear those engines rumble, feel that airplane shake as it takes to the sky and lumbers through the air like it did 90 plus years ago. And it's really cool getting to experience that piece of history and see what it was like to travel around this country back in the 1930s in an airplane that really built the modern airline industry as we know it today. As much as this event is about sharing history and helping to promote this museum, it's also about getting to see a bunch of other friends that we only see once or twice a year. We have people who travel from all over the western half of this country just to spend their weekend camping on the lawn, hanging out, sharing in the camaraderie of vintage aircraft and that passion for this history. And so if you've ever been to an event like Oshkosh or any other big fly-in, this is basically the Northwest's own small version of that. We have a gathering of vintage aircraft that rivals many other events, and they all come to this one little mountain town in Oregon to hang out for a weekend, land on the lawn, and talk about airplanes.
Cloudboy is cool and rare. These two are one of them.
Now, like I've said already, we don't just talk about these airplanes, we fly these airplanes. And this year, I got the really special opportunity to fly the photo ship for an evening photo flight with our 3 showcase airplanes. And they're a pretty special bunch. The lead ship in this formation was the Stearman 6L Cloudboy, the grandfather of what eventually became the production Stearman that we all know from World War II. There were only 7 of these aircraft ever built, and all I can find is 4 surviving examples. The next aircraft in the lineup is the Stearman Model 70, the one and only prototype that was ever built of the eventual production airplane. And the third ship in the formation is the St. Louis YPT-15 Streetcar. There were only 12 production aircraft ever built, and this is the only surviving example of the type. So getting to see these 3 airplanes in formation together at sunset was a real once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And getting to participate in this was a real treat that I am super excited to get to share with everybody. Now that said, it's not often you get to fly a photo plane at sunset with a gaggle of rare biplanes. But after chasing the Streetcar and the Model 70 to Oshkosh this year, I really wanted to get some special attention to the Cloudboy, as I hadn't had an opportunity to really film that airplane yet. And so, after the Streetcar and the Model 70 broke off to land, I persuaded my buddy Wes, who was flying the Cloudboy, to stay airborne and give me a few minutes to try and get a couple more shots of that airplane. And I think we managed to get one of the most beautiful pieces of footage I've ever filmed. So, if you stick around for the end of the video, I have that shot, just music, no talking, so you guys can enjoy an incredible sunset shot of this Cloudboy flying through the sky over Hood River by itself. Now, I know every pilot out there has a favorite airplane. And maybe it's the best airplane you've ever flown. Or it's the airplane you've always dreamed of flying. Or it's that one airplane that you've been fantasizing about since you were a little kid. At the moment, for me, I think that airplane's the Stearman Cloudboy. Of all the airplanes I've flown over the years, it's definitely not the best. It's not the fastest, it's not the easiest, it's not the sexiest, and the ailerons are way too heavy. But I love the way this airplane feels when it's in the air. I love the roll rate and the rudder and elevator harmony, and I love how buttery smooth the 3-point landings are on a grass runway. And so it may not be the best airplane I've ever flown, but it's definitely my favorite. And I can't imagine a better way to spend a calm, clear summer evening than getting together with a couple of my good buddies and flying a group of vintage biplanes. And so I'm going to sign off here for this episode and leave you all with this footage of these 3 airplanes flying together on a beautiful September sunset evening. And I'll see you all in the next one.